Adolf Hitler is giving a speech in Beer Hall in Munich. Right behind him in the column, a bomb has been hidden away, and it is about to go off. The German carpenter and the Nazi opponent George Elsa has planned this moment for months. He knew Hitler would be here tonight, and he knew when exactly the Führer would give a speech. Elsa installed explosives with a time fuse, and at exactly 9:20 p.m. his bomb is supposed to detonate. The explosion causes the entire ceiling above the podium to collapse. 63 people died. 8 died, but Hitler is not one of them. How did he survive? Hitler left the beer hall earlier than expected at 9:07 p.m. Georg Elsa fell. But this one was just one of many attempts to assassinate Hitler, one of almost 40. Today, we take a look at some of the most spectacular plans to rid the world of the Nazi leader. Why did they all fail? How Hitler kept getting away? Was he that lucky? Or there was more to it? Stuck with the video to find out. This is Hennen von Treschow, a first general staff officer in the Wehrmacht. At first, he was a supporter of Hitler when he seizes power at 1933, but that will soon change. Treschow's turning point came in 1941 when Germany attacks the Soviet Union. He thinks Hitler's invasion was a military madness. He thinks they will lose the war, but Treskow also has moral concerns because he knows about the mass murder of the Jewish people. He knows what the regime was doing. A resolve forms within him. He was convinced that this mad dictator must be stopped at all costs. And in spring 1943, Treskow makes his move. He manages to persuade his commander-in-chief, Gunther von Klauger, to invite Hitler in Smolensk in the Soviet Union. Here, Treskow is stationed, and the Führer agrees. On March the 13th, 1943, he makes a stopover in Smolensk on his flight from Venice to his headquarters in East Prussia. At lunch, Treskow asks Lieutenant Colonel Hans Bratt, who is traveling with Hitler on the plane, for a favor. That favor was to deliver a package containing 2 bottles of controlled cognac to a friend of Treskow in East Prussia. Treskow tells him that he lost a bet. Instead of 2 bottles of alcohol, however, the package contains a bomb with a detonator. Treskow wants to faint in an airplane accident. His co-conspirator Fabian von Schlabendorf secretly activates the time pencil and then hands the package to Brad. The plane takes off at around 3 p.m. On board are Hitler, Brad, and the bomb. The bomb is supposed to explode within an hour. Schlabendorf set the timer by crushing a glass vial filled with a corrosive liquid in the time pencil. The airplane should crash at about the height of Minsk. But Hitler landed in his headquarters safely. But how did that happen? Brad had packed the package, and the cold cargo that held the acid detonator had frozen. Treskow immediately calls Hans Brad and tells him that he accidentally gave him the wrong package. The next day, Schlabendorf flies to East Prussia and exchanges the package with 2 bottles of cognac and defuses the bomb. But Treskow's assassination attempt failed. But he didn't get caught either. In fact, he was part of a sworn circle of military resistance fighters determined to kill Hitler, and they were far from giving up. A key figure in the group was Lieutenant Colonel Klaus Schangraf Stauffenberg. Over the years, he became the head of military conspiracy. Treskow and Stauffenberg were close companions, and they were always looking for a new opportunity to eliminate the Führer. But they didn't have to wait long. Fast forward 9 months. This is Axel Freya van den Bosch. He is an officer, almost 2 meters tall, blonde, and he has blue eyes. He truly embodies the Nazi ideal. This appearance is supposed to provide him with the perfect opportunity to kill Hitler. Van den Bosch and a group of other soldiers are to present the new Wehrmacht's uniforms to Hitler at his headquarters. Van den Bosch plans to use a hidden British hand grenade to blow himself up along with the dictator. But then in Berlin, a railroad wagon is destroyed by an Allied bomb, and it contained the new uniforms. So, no uniforms, no presentation. The meeting is is postponed. But then, Van den Bosche is not an option anymore, because just 1 month earlier he was seriously wounded. One of his legs had to be amputated. Instead, Stauffenberg now wants the 21-year-old Lieutenant Ewald Heinrich von Kleist to trade his life for Hitler's death. The young lieutenant takes his time to think about it, and then he agrees. Von Kleist is ready to do the job. But Hitler cancels the appointment on short notice. On July 7, 1944, the presentation of the new Wehrmacht uniforms finally takes place at a castle near Salzburg. This time, Major General Helmut Stey is chosen as the assassin. He too is part of the resistance group. The odds of success are extremely high. An explosion at that distance is nearly unsurvivable. It's the perfect opportunity. Then at the last moment, Steve hesitates and backs out. Sure, he wants to see Hitler dead, but he was not willing to sacrifice his life for it. Yet, the group around Stauffenberg doesn't give up. They plan a new attack, and this time, Stauffenberg wants to do it himself. He aims not only to kill Hitler, but also to bring down the entire Nazi regime in one coordinated strike. In the early morning of July 20th, 1944, Stauffenberg and First Lieutenant Werner von Haaften fly from Berlin to the Führer's headquarters. Stauffenberg is to report on the Eastern Front at a meeting with Hitler. It presents the perfect opportunity for Stauffenberg. He plans to arm 2 bombs in his briefcase, place it near to Hitler during the meeting, and leave the room before the bombs go off. Then he plans to fly back to Berlin, where he and other resistance fighters plan to take over power after Hitler's death. At the Führer's headquarters, Stauffenberg learns that the time of the meeting has been changed due to a visit of the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. Now it's moved forward by half an hour. At around 12:15, Stauffenberg pretends to want to change his shirt. Together with Haaften, he wants to secretly activate the time fuse for the bomb before the meeting begins. But they get interrupted and told to hurry not to be late for the meeting. Therefore, they can only arm one of the 2 explosives. So Stauffenberg doesn't pack the second one and leaves it with Haaften. He then enters the meeting. He puts his briefcase down near his target at the end of the table. Hitler and the bomb are now separated by only 1.3 meters. Stauffenberg gives his report and then immediately leaves the room, supposedly to make an important phone call. Everything was going according to plan. A few minutes later, Hitler leans over the table to further discuss war strategy, and then the bomb detonates. Stauffenberg watches the explosion from 200 meters away and is certain that Hitler is finally dead. Then he flies back to Berlin with Haaften to continue Operation Valkyrie. They plan to blame the SS and the Gestapo for Hitler's death. Then they want to take power and put an end to the Nazi dictatorship. But Operation Valkyrie failed. In the meeting room, the explosion wave causes the entire ceiling to collapse, and there is now a gaping hole in the floor where the briefcase once stood. Ruptured the eardrums of almost everyone present. 4 people died. Almost all the others are injured. Only 2 people got off lightly. One of them is Adolf Hitler. The fact that Hitler leans over the table during the explosion saved his life. He was only thrown slightly upwards by the force of the explosion. If Stauffenberg had also placed the second bomb in his briefcase, the explosion probably also would have killed Hitler. With the failed assassination attempt on Hitler, the planned coup to end the Nazi regime also fails only a few hours later. Stauffenberg and the 3 other main brothers are shot that very night in the courtyard of the Blinde Block. Those are the headquarters of the General Army Office and was the heart of military resistance. 200 other co-conspirators also got executed. It was the last known attempt to assassinate Hitler. On April the 13th, 1945, Hitler committed suicide in the Führer bunker in Berlin. Why did Hitler survive again and again and again? In old photos and videos recordings, we almost always see Hitler walking around alone. That was part of his image as an invincible, untouchable dictator. But in reality, Hitler made many precautions to protect himself. He had many highly trained bodyguards. A special security service checked all routes and locations meticulously before Hitler arrived. His whereabouts were top secret, and he was always well protected. When he traveled by train, car, or a plane. He had his own piloting coup. He always had his meals tasted by his personal doctor before he started eating, all to minimize the risk of an assassination. Besides these security precautions, Hitler pursued a special tactic. He allegedly once said, "The only antidote is an unsteady line." He often changed his routes, cancelled trips at a short notice, came earlier to meetings than planned, or left events earlier than expected. We don't know if and how a successful assassination would have changed Germany's history. What would happen if Hitler had just stayed 13 minutes longer in the beer hall in 1939? Could millions of Jews have been saved if one of almost 40 recorded attempts would have succeeded? Or would someone else in the regime simply have taken his place? We will never know. Here we came to an end of our video, ladies and gentlemen. If you liked the episode, please do not forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Take care.